All right, Jonathan, joining us right now is none other than 2014 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer Mario Mancini. Mario, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Mario, tell us a little bit about. You're a brand new Hall of Famer into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Tell us a little bit about how that came about. I mean, working with Joseph Bruin and his organization. Even you can find out more about Joseph Bruin and the New England Hall of Fame is newenglandfanfest.com. But tell us a little bit more about how this came about.
Well, Joe Bruin runs a top-notch outfit there in the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I'm so thankful to him for thinking of me and remembering me and inducting me into his Hall of Fame. I'm still kind of reeling from it because, 30 years ago, in July 31st, it'll be 30 years ago that I turned pro. While I was sitting in the dressing room when I was 18, if somebody came up to me and said, in 30 years from now, you're going to be inducted into a Hall of Fame in the same class of Harley Race, I'd say you got to be out of your mind. So it was really special for me. It was one of the most special moments of my life. So I really thank Joe Bruin and the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. I'm proud to be a member of that Hall of Fame. And as I told Joe Bruin, I'm not just one of those guys that, will, take the plaque and, toss it on a counter somewhere and say, yeah, that's good. I fully intend to represent the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame as a professional wrestler with, class and dignity and be a good representative of Joe Bruin's organization. The way it came about was I was just kind of sitting there minding my own business, and Joe called me last year, and he got my name from Mike the Fogman Invitable, and he said, "Listen, I'm Joe Bruin, and I want you to come to do a fan fest. I'll give you a free table, and come and sign autographs." And I said, "Well, I'm really not interested,
Yeah.
No thanks." And he said, "Well." He just kind of laughed, and he said, well, why? I said, well, nobody wants to come and see me. I mean, why do they want to come and see me? They want to come and see, Tony Atlas and, Greg Valentine and Tito Santana. They don't want to see me. He said, no, you're wrong. They want to come and see you. And he said, I have somebody coming all the way from Japan just to see you. And sadly, that was Shu, and I got to know Shu in these past two fan fests, and he was an unbelievable human being and the kindest man you ever wanted to meet, and just devastated that he had a heart attack shortly returning from the fan fest this year, and he's passed away. It was shocking. It was shocking to all of us. That's how much he meant to all of us there, all the wrestlers there at the fan fest.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but I didn't believe him, and I felt obligated to go because he told me somebody was coming all the way from Japan to see me. So
Yeah.
I went, and lo and behold, I ended up having the time of my life, and I really had a great thing, and Joe had come up to me and he said, listen, I want to induct you into the Hall of Fame next year. And I was just kind of blown away. And he said, thank you very much. Sure. And came up in a couple days after last year's Fan Fest, he posted on his website the first inductee into the 2014 Hall of Fame is Mario Mancini. He had a picture up there, and I just kind of stared at it for a few days. And, I kind of got choked up this year because he did announce the first inductee into the 2015 Hall of Fame, and I said, it was me last year, And, Joe Bruin's just a great guy. I mean, the respect he has for the business, how he treats the guys, is unbelievable. Joe Bruin has treated me like Hulk Hogan, so it has been really good feeling. I've got nothing but respect from the people at the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, everybody involved in it, and the other wrestlers involved in it. And it really is a classy organization. And spoke with Joe because he runs something impeccably like Vince does. It's incredibly organized. It's very professional, and he's really good at what he does.
Yeah.
With the Hall of Fame, and I'm eagerly waiting for him to announce the location of the 2015 Hall of Fame, and I know he let a couple names go on his website, but I'm waiting to hear the full lineup of who's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame next year, and I'm looking forward to it. I got spoiled this year because I had a VIP dinner on Friday night, and I lost my voice with the guys in there, and then the next day was the Fan Fest, and then I had a question and answer session. And again, as I sat up on that question and answer session, I was sitting next to Tito Santana, and he was sitting next to Harley Race, and all I did was, I just went back to 1980 while I was sitting on the floor, and I looked at my family and I said, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. And I went back to that day when I was 14 years old, and then I looked to the left and to the right of me, and I'm like, I'm really not sitting up here. I'm not sitting up here. So I'm very fortunate. I'm lucky because most people sit in their chair and they dream, and they wonder what then, and they all they do is dream. And sometimes they get depressed about it and say, what if? But I was fortunate enough to live my dream, to say that I was going to be a pro wrestler, not only a pro wrestler, but a pro wrestler for the WWF. And, on that hard day on July 31st, when there were so many people there that they could have picked me, and I was fortunate. And, my full dream was to be the next Bruno Sammartino, but that didn't happen. But I'm happy with what I got.
Yeah.
I'm happy with what I got,
Yeah, man, definitely.
So,
this was my first time ever at the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I was blown
Yeah.
away by it all. I mean, just the Fan Fest and then the Hall of Fame itself. I mean, I loved your speech. It moved me. I loved it. I mean, you even brought up a pair of your trunks and boots to get Joe to get a building. We got to get a building now for the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, because that'll be something great to see. And just having you on today is more of an honor, just to talk to you a little bit about wrestling and just the thing that we love the most, pretty much, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, absolutely. And for those fans that are listening today that maybe you're younger or you've just got into professional wrestling, Mario, can you please kind of just you started to tell us, but can you tell us kind of how you broke into the business?
Well, like I said, I decided at the age of 14 that I wanted to be a professional wrestler, and it really didn't become an absolute reality until I was at the New England Coliseum. And, I knew I wanted to do it, and I was 16 years old, and I went to the matches in the Coliseum every month. And I was fortunate to get floor seats. I always had second or third floor row on the floor and on the end, so I can get up and go to the steel barricade there and get close enough to yell at them, marking out, and yell at them. And just sitting there with my mother and father and my brothers and my sister, and a referee walked in the ring, and my father stood up and went, Tony, hey, Tony. And he actually turned around and he said, hey, Ralph, Gloria, how you doing? And he had a big smile on his face and leaned over and shook my father's hand. And my father sat down and said, you know that guy? And he said, yeah, that's Tony Altomare. Yeah, he's at Stanford. He was tag champion with Lou Albano back in the 60s. We grew up with him, went to grammar school with him. I said, really? So I went back to the New England Coliseum by myself the next month at about 4:30, and I waited for him. This was in the spring of '83, and I waited for him. And I said, "Hi, Mr. Alpamar, I want to be a professional wrestler." And he said, "What's your name?" And I told my name. He said, "I know your mother and father, Ralph and Glory." I said, "That's right." He said, "Yeah, Grady." I said, "I'm just finishing up my junior year." He goes, "Good. Finish up your senior year and go to college. Stay away from this business." And I said, No, I won't do that. I want to be a wrestler." And he said, "You don't want anything to do with this business?" I said, "Yeah, I do." So he walked away from me. So then I went to the Hartford Civic Center. He saw me again. I said, "I want to be a wrestler." And he said, No. Then I got my license in June. I went to Madison Square, and it took me about 4 hours to find Madison Square Garden because I was 16 and I've never been in New York City before. And I couldn't find the garden, all these one-way streets and everything. And I finally found the garden, and I got him coming out. And he looked at me and said, "Geez, kid, you're nuts, huh?" He goes, "I tell you what, come to the New Hampshire Coliseum next month." So I went to the Coliseum next month, and I walked in there, and Seth Cohen was there, who ended up going to wrestling school with me also, and A.J. Petrucci, who's one half of the Super Destroyers. He's in a couple Hall of Fames now. He's with the ECW and everything. And this gentleman named Dave Barbie. And I went to the New Haven Coliseum, and Seth Cohen was there, and he was getting drop kicked off the top rope by Kurt Hennig. Mr. Fuji was there. And, they took me in the ring and really, just beat the hell out of me. And to the point where I was bleeding. I mean, Fuji had no mercy on me, And, I'm bleeding down my face, my neck, my chest. And, Tony kind of chuckled, and he said, "Yeah, you want to be arrested?" He goes, "You want to come back?" "Yeah, when do I come back?" And he said, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Well, I'm opening up a wrestling school in October, Passerola's Quest in Orange, Connecticut." So in October of '83, after a month after I started my senior year, I went to Passerola's Quest, and that's where Seth was, and AJ and Dave, and I went to wrestling school my entire senior year of high school. On July 31st, '84, I went to Poughkeepsie. I did some things in the ring, and people were taking notes. Names were called out, and I was told to go downstairs and see Gorilla Monsoon and sign my contract. And I went downstairs and saw Gino and saw my contract. I asked if I needed a lawyer. He said, "Not if you want to sign this contract." I said, "Okay." And I signed it, and that night I worked with Greg Valentine. So the pro wrestling school is the hardest thing anybody will ever do in their lives if they want to do it. I got to tell you, even if you're in the Marine Corps, it just isn't going to cut it. We've had Marines come in on a Saturday. They didn't show up on a Sunday. We've had semi-pro football players come in, and come in on a Saturday, and you didn't see them on a Sunday. It's grueling. It is absolute. It's just torture, really. If you can get through it, good for you. But that's exactly how I got into it. I was fortunate to know Tony Altomar. The key part about it was when I turned pro, I was 18 years and 39 days old. And a lot of guys didn't know that. The guys would ask me, Morocco was kind of taken back. He's like, I worked a TV match with him, and he's like, "Good kid, good." Yeah. How old are you? About 22, 23? I go, "No, I'm 18. And he's like, "Whoa, wow." that kind of brought back memories for him because, he started at the age of 16 himself. So, and that's how he started.
All right, yeah. I mean, it's great hearing it because we never get to really hear the little bit behind the scenes of what actually happens. And I don't know about you, Jonathan. What do you think? I mean, it's really something to get to know. Like, I mean, we never find out about guys' first days or how it really all started for them, right?
Yeah, well, what's also awesome about this is that like a lot of the places that you're talking about, we've actually watched wrestling at too. So it's definitely it's really cool for me because I'm not from the Northeast originally, but now I've been in the buildings in Poughkeepsie and stuff. So it's cool because now I know exactly what you're talking about whenever you bring up the stories.
Right.
Yeah, Mario. Now, I mean, a lot of people would call what you did as enhancement talent. A lot of people, I mean, even Al Snow originally came up with the Job Squad and kind of poked fun of it a little bit. Do you feel what you used to do? I mean, do you feel that it's lacking these days? I mean, everybody that wrestles today is pretty much a big name or whatever, but they don't have like a lot of enhancement talent. Do you feel that's lacking today, or tell me a little bit more about how you feel about how it was back then, also?
I did another show on last night. I did a show last night, and the same format we're doing it in right now. And I brought up Barry Horowitz, and Barry was a tremendous wrestler, great worker, even a better human being. I mean, he's just a great guy. And he had an interview, and he said, don't call me a jobber. Mm-hmm. Don't call me a jobber. I was enhancement talent. Don't call me a jobber. That's an insult. And it's funny because I think just the opposite. Don't call me enhancement talent. Call me a jobber. You know what I mean? Because, it's funny. Just before you guys called, before you guys called, I was, and it reminded me again, I was watching, I used Seinfeld as an example. I was watching an episode of Seinfeld. And they were in a laundromat. And they're having a dispute on whether clothes can be over dried or not,
Yeah.
And there were three women back there, putting detergent in the machine, and they were folding clothes with no line. That's enhancement talent. That's something to just fluff up the scene. Listen to me. Don't believe what you see on TV. I was an excellent wrestler. If you saw me in a house show, and you know what? I don't mind bragging about that because there's nothing else in my life I can brag about. There's nothing else in my life I did as well as pro wrestling. The first day in October of 1983, when I got into that ring the first day, my whole body relaxed. That ring fit me like a glove. And I said to myself, I knew it. This is where I belong. This is what God gave me. Mm-hmm. And people would get aggravated because I was able to leave my feet 3 feet before hitting the ropes. And they go, geez, how do you do that? And when Big John Studd hip tossed me, I didn't go around his body. If you freeze frame that, my waist is level with his head. I was an excellent wrestler. I wasn't just an excellent bumper. I was an excellent worker. And, I don't consider myself the guy with the chef hat wiping the counter down on a Seinfeld episode as they sit at the booth. I don't. I was the Undertaker's debut match. I was King Kong Bundy's debut match.
Wow.
S.D. Jones and I were the debut match for the Hart Foundation. I was Big Bully Busick's debut match. They needed a stretcher before WrestleMania 1, and I was there 8 months before WrestleMania 1. They needed a stretcher. They looked around the whole dressing room. Vince McMahon said, Mancini. I could pile driver on the concrete floor against Paul Orndorff.
Wow.
The next WrestleMania came. Said, will you do it again for me, kid? I said, absolutely. 2 avalanches and 3 splashes by Bundy. Another WrestleMania before Savage and Hogan went at it. I did one against Savage. So you know what? Now, I had talent, period. Enhancement, you know what? I don't know. But you know, I'm okay with Jobber.
Awesome. Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, you know what? I wasn't an extra in the WWF. You know, there were guys. An extra to me were the guys that brought their bag. They went out there one time, and they were, you know, somewhere out there are guys that looked up a match on YouTube, and they were an enhancement talent. That was their only match ever with the WWF because they didn't ask him to come back. Mm-hmm. You don't call somebody who was stationary every week on TV for 8 years an enhancement talent. Yeah, not to me.
Awesome.
So we, you know, we're, you know, big listeners of all that's pro wrestling. We watch a lot, and recently I listened to an interview with Tony DeVito, and I'm not 100% on this, but we're talking to the man right now, so I figured I'd ask. Did you at one point have your own wrestling school?
I did, from 1989 to 1992, and before that, you know. Honestly, Tony Altomar just didn't show up anymore when I was there. If he knew I wasn't on the road and I was going to be there on a Saturday morning, he just wouldn't show up, and I would take it for him. And yeah, and I'm opening up another wrestling school. I'm looking for a building right now. I just purchased a ring, and I'm looking for a space right now with 16-foot ceilings around the New Haven. North Branford area, and this time I want to do it with my friends, with my very dear friends, and my very dear friends are Paul Roma and Dave Paradise, who now goes by the name of Big Steve these days. We all know Paul Roma's history with the WWF and the WCW, the 2-time tag team champion, and one of the 4 horsemen. Paul Roma, to me, between football, baseball, basketball, hockey, name any sport, he was the greatest athlete I've ever seen in my life. When he was, especially when he was like 26 years old, listen, I went to wrestling school from October to July. Roma went to wrestling school for 2.5 months. He was a superhuman being. I've never seen anybody do what he did, and to this day, he still holds the highest dropkick in professional wrestling history. He dropkicked John Studd. His left foot was on his forehead, and his right foot was over his head.
Wow.
And Paul Roma was the greatest athlete I've ever seen in my life. And, of course, there's Dave Paradise, who was with the WWF briefly. Honestly, with him, he was 6'4", 275 pounds, and he was a jobber. And, you know, he was bigger than most of the guys that he was putting over. So it didn't really work out too well for him because he was huge. He was huge with no politics. So, it didn't work out for him. But I'm opening up a wrestling school with these other 2 guys, and we already have people interested. Students lined up. I have one in particular person that I won't reveal what her position is going to be in professional wrestling, but she will take it by storm. And her name is more fascinating, and she will take the wrestling world by storm. She's a very pretty woman. She's been she's a professional actress, and with other talents and marketing skills, and she's just a really, really talented woman, and most importantly, a very kind-hearted woman, which will go a long way as far as being professional, because of course, a real top-notch professional wrestler only handles themselves with dignity and a lot of respect and grace toward others. And she's just cut out for that. That's her personality. And, I can't wait to get her in because I really think she's going to make a huge mark on this. And I have a couple other students that are involved. Of course, when you run a wrestling school, and I know that we're going to have some heat on us, but I have to say this, aside from Laura Fascinating, I do have to say that in order for me to pick up a phone and call Stamford, Connecticut, it would have to be one hell of a freak. Outstanding athlete in order for me to call the office and say, would you take a look at this guy? And I know a lot of students are going to be looking at me in the side eye, whether I'm going to do that or not. But you know what, guys, the truth is the truth. There are some people that are in this business that are just great for independent pro wrestling. And you know what? They make a career out of their when I say career, they make their name in the independent circuit and they get recognition in the independent circuit. For God's sakes, you know what? The Hall of Fame induction started at 6:00, and the WWF guys didn't start getting inducted until 8:15. They were all independent wrestlers, and independent wrestling is the grassroots of this business, and these guys do it because they love it, because they can't quit their day jobs. So hats off to them, because they're doing it because it's in their heart, and that's the heart of a wrestler. You get a guy like Bull Dredd, man. Go on Facebook and read some of Dredd stuff he puts out being a wrestler. You'll sit there and bawl your eyes out.
Oh yeah. We're friends with Bull. Yeah, we know him.
Well, oh yeah, you'll bawl your eyes out. Bull, and again, another top-notch guy that carries himself with grace and dignity. Just like Zombie. I look at guys like Dredd and like Zombie. You know what? They could have been there with me. Not a problem. I saw Zombie with his friend who inducted him at the Hall of Fame, and I looked at him and I said, "That's the real Mick Foley you're looking at right there."
Yeah.
Zombie. He's the real Mick Foley.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? He should have had that shot. You know what I mean? And both Dredd, Zombie, I have utmost respect for these guys and their dedication to their love for the business. So listen, back then when I ran a wrestling school, when I knew they were ready, I just marched them into TV.
Yeah.
I marched them right into TV. You could go on YouTube and see these guys. I marched Paul Perez in there. Great kid, a great guy. Great guy to have on the road, great guy to room with, great guy to be in the car with. I mean, I marched him right in there. Another guy, Mark Thomas, he did the independent circuit as the Condor, but when he was in the WWF, it was Mark Thomas. You can look these guys up, Russ Greenberg was in the wrestling school. All these guys, they came to the wrestling school and I bring them to TV. Like you said, these days you can't do that because there are no jobbers.
Sure.
There are no jobbers, and that puts a lot of stress because everybody's on top. But you know what? Someone's got to do a job.
Yep.
Someone's got to do a job, and you know what? Everybody's over. Everyone is over. And you got to do a job. I swear, you know what? There are a lot of times probably in that dressing room where guys are looking around and going, "Jesus, a guy that has been over for 6 months and all of a sudden come up to him and go, you got to do a job tonight." They're looking around for Mario Mancini and Jose Luis Rivera. Going, where are these guys?
That's right. I mean, you said it right there. I mean, that's exactly what we were talking about too. I mean, me and Jonathan spoke earlier to where, like we look at TV today and like every match it's a not like, I mean, a big name, but I mean, they're all names against each other, and you don't have that, that enhancement talent anymore, that jobber guy to get other people over, and you're taking these other guys to where, they think they're going to probably be the next John Cena, yet now all of a sudden they turn into the jobber and they don't really get it. and it is missing in a big part today. And I kind of want to rewind a little bit with you to where, you said you were the first guy to ever wrestle the Undertaker and so on. Does that put a lot of pressure onto you to where they're saying, hey, we have this guy coming in, we really want to make him a big deal or something like that? We're going to put him against you first. Do they say anything like that to you, or I mean, what happens with that?
No, it's very laid back, very matter of fact. You kind of sitting there in Poughkeepsie or wherever we were when I did Taker. I'll give you an example. Poughkeepsie was Bundy. So I walk into the dressing room and I look up on the board and it says Bundy v. Mancini. So, I walk up to Chris, who became a really good friend of mine. I walk up to Chris. I don't know him from Adam, and he's sitting there with his Fruit of the Loom T-shirt on, his jeans, a canvas pair of sneakers, and he's biting his thumbnail, Mm-hmm. And I go, hey, I'm Mario Mancini. How are you? He's like, hey, Chris, how are you? I go, King Kong Bundy. He's like, yeah. And I go, what's the matter? And he goes, well, I was here 3 years ago as a jobber. I was Chris Cannon. I had long hair and a beard, a mustache, a long black suit and everything. And I'm like, and then I went away and I shaved my head and I got this gimmick. And I'm like, that's good for you, I said, listen, now what's going through my mind, guys? Yeah. This guy's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. This guy is going to take my life. So I sit next to him and I go, Chris, listen to me. When I'm in there with you, I want you to think of the 4th of July, because all you're going to see is fireworks going off, brother. Because I'm going to sell like crazy for you. You understand? What I'm telling them is, don't kill me. I know what I'm doing. Please, just go with it, Yeah. And, he was a little stiff, but, I did for him what I said I do for him. And if you watched it on YouTube, you'd see that I did what I said I'd do for him, and that's it. You know what I mean? It's just like the day with Taker. I looked up on the board and said Undertaker versus Mario Mancini, and I looked at him and I said, who's that? Where is this guy? And they pointed over to him and they go, that's Mean Mark Callis or something. Something from the NWA, WCW, or whatever it was called back then.
Yeah.
Florida Championship Wrestling, wherever he came from, So I walked up to him and I said, hey, Mario Mancini. He goes, Mark. I go, hey, Mark, how you doing? What's your finish? And he goes, the tombstone. I go, what's the tombstone? He goes, it's a reverse pile driver. I said, I took a lot of those from Morocco, not a problem. And I said, just do your thing out there, brother, okay? He said, no, Mario, listen to me, one thing. I said, what's that? He said, I'm going to grab your hand, and I need you to keep your elbow locked. Do not collapse your elbow, or I'm in trouble. I go, okay, what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to walk the top rope. I go, you're going to walk the top rope. You. I go, what are you, about 6'9"? He goes, no, I'm gonna walk the top rope. Go, listen, brother, that elbow will be like set in concrete. And he laughed. And he said, one more thing, I'm going to clothesline you backwards over the top rope. He goes, you've done that before, right? And you know what? Amazingly, in all the years I was there, I think by that time it was like 6 years, I never did that. But I knew I could do it. The problem is, if you watch it on YouTube, I said to myself in the dressing room, in order for me to get this done, after he chokes me and walks away, I'm going to have to push the top rope down, and then I'll go over. So the problem is only if I tell you about it will you catch it. Not only did I push the top rope down, but I was paranoid that there was a chair behind me or something. So you'll actually see me glance behind me while I push the top rope down. And then he clotheslines me. So, and it was over. There was no kind of ceremonious kind of, this is the Undertaker's first match.
Sure.
There was nothing like that. It was just, you look up on the board, you know, other things could have been ceremonious, but they weren't. I mean, the time Strongbow came up to me and said, Mancini, come here. Because get this, guys. Now, understand this. Get this. At one point, I became cocky. I became very arrogant.
Yeah.
And Strongbow's looking around the dressing room. He's going over this new finish with Butch Reed. And he's looking around the dressing room. He goes, oh, Mancini, come here. He said, what's up, Chief? Because I've been trying to perfect this finish with Butch. I can't perfect it. I go, what's the finish? He goes, it's a press over his head like Atlas, but instead of slamming him, he just drops him like a sack of potatoes behind him. The problem is, from that height, you got to fall flat on your stomach like you fall flat on your face. He goes, can you do that? I go, what do you think, Chief? And he grabbed me by the back of the hair and he said, don't get cocky. And I think after me, they tried it with a couple more guys and they just abandoned the finish because nobody could do it. He goes, how are you going to do it? I go, you know what? I'm just going to point my left shoulder ever so slightly, tilt it, the left side of my body. The appearance will be that I pancake, but I'm just going to tweak it an inch so I don't land squarely on my stomach. And it worked. Nice. But it won't work for everybody. They bend their knees. They were just afraid to just lay out stiff, and it was what it was. Again, you get to be a professional and you just know who you're working with and what their finish is, and you work with DiBiase enough times, you just walk up. I worked with DiBiase so many times. He went up to Vince and asked him to run an angle. My knees were knocking. I'm like, oh, God, please. And Ted goes, but people are going to think they're repeats. And he looks over and he goes, Mario, no offense. I go, no, Ted, I'm not offended. He goes, every single TV tape, and I'm working with Mancini, every single one, there's got to be a reason. Strongbow had to pull things out of his ass. He didn't know what to do anymore. At one point, I wish I could see this one on YouTube. At one point, this is what he had me doing. He had DiBiase holding the belt in front of my face, going, you'll never get this belt in a million years, Mancini. So I take both my hands and I slap it underneath him. It goes flying in the air, and I start whacking him. And he starts selling the hell out of it, and then I go to toss him in, and he reverses it, and then, I start my job. Another time I worked with him, Vince was standing there when we were discussing it, and Strongbow, you got to know this. Joe Scarpa, I love Joe Scarpa. Joe Scarpa was my mentor, my protector, and my second father for 28 years. 3 months up until the day he died, we were still saying I love you to each other. It was a very, very close bond. If it was up to Joe Scarpa, I would have been the heavyweight champion of the world if it was up to him. But he's standing there, and Vince is standing there, and DiBiase's got this stack of money, and he's like, you go to Mancini's face, you'll never earn this kind of money in your whole life. You'll never have this money in your... He goes, Mario, snatch that money out of his hand, go underneath the bottom rope and just start running around the ring. He goes, when you start running around the ring, Mike will catch you on the other side, give you a pop, and then take that bump on the outside of the ring. And Vince, this is the only time I was kind of snide with Vince. And Vince goes, when you take that bump, whatever side you're going to fall on, make sure the money's in your hand toward the ring apron. I said, no, Vince, I'm going to make sure it's near the steel ring post, near the steel barricades where the fans can lean over and snatch it out of my hands. He goes, I'm just telling you. I go, I got it. So, were they monumental? You look back now and they are, but when they were happening, if you two were sitting in the dressing room the night I did Baker, you would look at each other and go, this is just another day at the office. This is just no big deal. But knowing his history and his career, you want to jump up and down and look at everybody and go, listen, this is incredible. This is this guy's first match. Well, nobody, you know, nobody thought that way. Nobody knew what Mark was going to be or how big he was going to be or where it was going to go, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, you kind of brushed on something that I wanted to kind of talk to you about, but you said that, you know, you tried to be professional all the time with a few times that you said you maybe got cocky or arrogant or anything. But is there anybody that, when you were in the business, that really just rubbed you the wrong way? Was there anybody that, you know, you just couldn't stand or didn't want to work with?
Yeah. Yep. 2 people. Only 2 people. That was Ed Leslie, who everybody knows is Bruce Beefcake, and Rick Rude.
Really?
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't want to force it, but...
Why? Rick Rude didn't thank me when he covered me. Never thanked me when he covered me. You don't do that.
Wow.
I gave you my body.
Yeah.
I gave you my body. You don't do that. Every one of those guys, Valentine, Ordendorff, Bundy, The Undertaker, every single one of them.
Every
single one of them.
Never knew that. I mean, from me and Jonathan's perspective, I mean, we're marks. We know the business, but we don't know like little things like that. That's very interesting because I mean, I honestly never knew that. I you know, we don't know the little inner workings like that. And I mean, to hear that, that's kind of interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's to find it out, you know.
You know, guys like Ordendorff would cover you and go, "Thank you, baby. Thank you." And you know what, guys like Ordendorff? He'd say, "Thank you, baby," in the ring. Then he wouldn't go back to the dressing room. He's waiting for you behind the blue curtain. So you're selling it back to the blue curtain. You go through the blue curtain. There he is, hugging you. "Thank you, baby." He goes to take a shower before he grabs his bag to leave for the night. He walks beelines right back over to you. "Thank you again."
Wow.
So he's thanking you, Bundy. "Thank you, brother." Oh, he's getting a 5 count. Just a little head down. "Thank you, brother." Rude never thanked me.
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, like I said, we don't know those little things, and that's really interesting to find out about. And hey, I mean, we find out a lot about, like, you know, some people that guys work with, and you know, they just either don't get along or whatnot. Like that. It's a very interesting topic, and to get into more on another time. But I mean, I don't know about you, Jonathan. What do you think? That was pretty interesting. I mean, did you know anything about that or?
No, not at all. I mean, once again, it's hard for us because we only watch it. We don't get to live it like you did, and so it's always great to kind of peel the curtain back for us. But I mean, you actually were there.
Yeah, and you know what I would say to them while I was down there? I'd go, "My pleasure, brother." You know what I mean? Yeah, my pleasure, brother.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't feel a thing, and it was healthy. You even have the sheet while you're in the camel clutch and he's grimacing. While he's grimacing, you know, and you're submitting before you let it go. You go, "Thank you, brother." You know what I mean? You got the sheet there, you know. "Thank you, brother." You know, it's just the way it was. That's what you do. You know, Brutus Beefcake, he was there on a ride. He was in the right place at the right time. Listen, my best friend on the universe is not with us anymore. We became best friends in 1976 in the 5th grade. When I was on the road in the East Coast, I'd take him with me on the road. He was there the night I got my nose broken in at the Music Theater in Rhode Island. He was drunk off of his ass. He said, Hey, Len, what's wrong with your nose, man? Hey, when that guy punched you, the whole crowd was a hush. You know, it's like the crowd expects you to fake it, but when they see something like that, you're like, well, that wasn't fake, you know?
Yeah.
If he didn't pass away and he became a wrestler too, and he became Hulk Hogan, I would have been Brutus Beefcake.
Wow.
Because that's what happened to Beefcake.
Yeah.
He was there on a ride, and Hogan used to yell at him all the time because he was out of control.
Wow.
Out of control. He was laughing right in my face one time, and Hogan walked by and he said, "Hey Eddie, I hope you're not laughing at Eminem. I hope you're not laughing at Eminem, because the people you see on the way up, you see them on the way down."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
I hear you, yeah.
you know, he tried to keep them under wraps. You know what I mean? So, you know, like, again, you're supposed to be very charitable, very gracious. You're supposed to be the utmost professional. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
I'll debate it until I'm in the coffin. Professional wrestlers are professional athletes, and you carry yourself as such. Just like I mentioned about the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame and Joe Bruin. Joe Bruin runs that thing. That's his. It belongs to him. He called me. He inducted me into his organization. Just like this interview, and just like anything else. If Joe Bruin called me up and said, "Hey, listen, I got a kid in a wheelchair up here in Rhode Island. What are you doing on Saturday?" I'd say, "What time do you want me there? What time do you want me there?" Because, you know what, I don't take this lightly whatsoever. You know, I took a lot of bumps in that ring. And you know what? I thank God for guys like Joe Bruin, because they recognize that. They recognize week after week after week after week. And the guys that don't, this is what I say to them. I go, "Listen to me. I was on TV every week. When you were sitting on the floor in your feety pajamas, eating your Captain Crunch, you were watching me."
That's it.
Okay? And you know, just to have the opportunity to be recognized, you know, just in plain English, for a guy like Joe Bruin or anybody else to go, "Listen, man, you were a regular. You got the hell knocked out of you. Absolute daylight's knocked out of you. You deserve this. Thank you. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to carry it. I am going to carry it with respect, and I'm going to represent." Like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of guys, I don't know, they might have their plaque on their bedroom wall. They might have their plaque in a closet or in a drawer. My plaque is hung at the law firm I work at. So every single client that walks in that door looks at that plaque. Every single one of them.
Wow, that's great.
So,
yeah. Mario, I mean, we talked a lot today, a lot of different things. I mean, we're definitely going to have you, and would love to have you on a lot more shows with us. What if you could tell us briefly? I mean, you just basically said it a little bit, but what are you up to these days? I mean, a little bit outside of pro wrestling. I mean, are you still involved? I know you got the school and all that stuff, but anything outside of wrestling, or?
Well, you know, I went to the Massachusetts School of Law in Andover, Massachusetts, and I took a little too many bumps, you know. But after the fifth attempt, I did pass the bar exam.
There you go.
What are you gonna do? And never give up. And you know, I've been with a law firm for 20 years actually. Come this April, and you know, I work there, and I intend to work there, you know, for, you know, until I retire. And I'd like to get the wrestling school going with Roma in Paradise. And you know, guys, we just literally I you know what, and I love doing these interviews. but I got to tell you, I don't even think we scratched the surface.
Yeah.
So if you want me, we definitely did not scratch the surface. So if you want me on again, I just followed up with a show last night because at the end of the interview they had mentioned Pat Patterson, and I said, you really don't want to go there with me, and they said, oh wow, that's a segue into another show, and they followed up on me with it last night. It was a good interview, but it wasn't pretty, because whether I do these interviews on a podcast, or whether I do these interviews in person, which I do locally for the Squared Circle, for Center Ring, and for Top Rope, I'm very candid and I'm very honest. So they're eager to sit there and listen to see what's going to come out of my mouth, because I don't hold back. But I'm not just here to throw out negatives about professional wrestling, although some of those negatives are the truth. But listen, anytime you guys want to do this again, I'd be more than happy to. Like I said, I am proudly a member of the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I'm here in New England, and I intend to represent it with the utmost dignity, and whoever wants to interview me, I'm always available for that interview.
Awesome, Mario. I mean, we would love to come to the opening of the school. We'd love to cover that. We'd love to have you on, because this is definitely, I don't know about you, Jonathan, this is definitely just part one of Mario Mancini on Another Wrestling Podcast, because we got a lot more questions to talk to you with, and I know we got a lot of other things to say with you. Maybe if I could leave you on this last question as kind of like a teaser for the next show, maybe give us like a 30 seconds or something. Or briefly, we talked briefly before the show. This will be for part 2, but anything you want to talk about Steve Lombardi on the next show?
You want me to cover that in 30 seconds? Really? Really? Well, let me tell you something. Put Steve Lombardi in a wet paper bag. I promise you he won't wrestle his way out of it. I guarantee you he couldn't wrestle his way out of it. Okay? I was there on sheer talent, and I tried to climb that ladder my way, like a man. Like a man. I tried to climb that ladder like a man. Okay? So that's the 30 seconds. You want to segue? Let me tell you something. There's certain things you just don't do to get a torn sweatshirt and a cigar. You don't do that. Then again, it didn't shock me that he'd want the cigar. Being used to that. So,
wow.
You want to have another show? Let's have another show.
That's it. That's perfect. I mean, if you guys are going to tune in just on those comments alone, I'm looking forward to the Mario Mancini interview part 2, and I can't wait. I don't know about you, Jonathan.
Absolutely. I'm enthralled right now. I'm learning more than maybe more than I ever needed to know, but I can't wait to have you back.
Guys, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being on your show. I had fun. Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you again for recognizing the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and my induction into it is a very proud moment in my life. I really appreciate it.
Mario, thank you once again. It was an honor having you on, and we really appreciate your time with us too.
Thank you so much.